Either way, there are several theories. Number stations broadcasting messages to spies. We'll have a discussion about cryptography a little bit later. There's also the theory of ionospheric research, looking at the changing patterns in the ionosphere and how that affects radio propagation. In fact, what's actually suggested is not how it affects radio propagation, although that is a use for the particular range it's being used for. It's also suggested that rather than radio, it's actually mapping the shape of the ionosphere itself, as the received signals will be dictated by the distortions of the magnetic field of the Earth, which of course change the height, width, depth, etc. properties of the ionosphere. So it could possibly be used as a mapping tool, which is very interesting.
Always help us with tuning into our beautiful voice of Russia.
Yeah, it could be simple as radio propagation. It's been suggested in a Russian scientific journal that the frequency that UVB-76 is broadcast at
4.625 megahertz.
Thank you very much. Is exactly the frequency needed to create radio waves that will bounce off at the angle of the ionosphere to form a mapping facility. However, this is also exactly the same frequency you'd need to test radio propagation due to the ionosphere. So, multiple uses from one system. One thing we've been looking at ourselves through various software analysis programs is the possibility that there's a digital signature stored within each buzz itself. In the 1970s and 80s, one of the things that was noticeable if you used a telephone or shortwave radio within Europe or even America is you would pick up a repeating tone going pip, 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 known as the woodpecker. This was an over-the-horizon radar system used by the Russians to detect missile launches from American bases. Quite an impressive piece of technology. If you have a look online and search for Duga 3, you will see, that's DUGA-3, you will see amazing pictures of a gigantic construction near Chernobyl in the Ukraine of the over-the-horizon radar system.
And
go ahead.
I'd like to describe how this works.
No, go for it.
The way that it works is, please correct me if I'm wrong. With each pulse of the over-the-horizon signal, there is a short little binary code, which, with the nature of it, is because of how it's reflected, it gets received again, and please continue. I completely lost my train of thought.
No, that's fine. You were spot on. Each binary code is unique. So each wave being sent from the over-horizon radar sender is unique. Because there'll be multiple reflections coming back as it bounces off the ionosphere onto the Earth and up again, and they'll come back at different times, this means that you have to reorder the waves as they come back to the receiver, because the further ones that travel will take longer to come back. This takes quite an immense amount of computing power, but is much easier if you can identify each wave individually, allowing you to reorder them in the time sequence and therefore work out whether a missile launch is happening or not. Hence, the over-the-horizon radar has a unique digital signature for each wave. So we've been looking into the possibility that UVB-76...
Mind control. Yes, that is a theory. It is used for mind control. It was confirmed by the Russian government. That's all. Thank you. No comments.
And it's even a possibility. I mean, who knows what the power of the mind is? Either way. Either way. Hey, well, look, there's some theories out there saying that the rather hot spy Anna Chapman was caught listening to UVB-76. I don't believe it myself. But,
no, you can't receive it from over here. Trust me, I've received it once, and it was 2 buzzes, and hams have trouble picking up. So if she could do it, she must be a genius. The spies that use conversations use MAA from Cuba.
Yep, so I've heard. As we say, the internet rumor bill strikes and fails again. Either way, to get back on point, we've been looking at the analysis of the wave itself. Neither of us being, of course, sound or technical engineers in broadcasting systems, it's a bit difficult for us to really know what we're doing. But we're having a play and we're having a look, and we're trying to identify the pattern that we see within the system. Interestingly, on Sonograph, we noticed that there's 17 distinct marks highlighted within the spectrum itself. We'll post an image online on the forum so that you can see. Particularly, speaking of which, the UVB-76 forum is where to find us. If you want to chat and discuss, that's uvb76.freeforums.org. Anyway, the sonogram, 17 distinct peaks, is displayed within the pulse that would easily be read by a computer if it was receiving it in data in some way. So you could suggest that there was a 16-bit transmission with a 1-bit parity bit on top of it to indicate. However, looking at the amplitude and volume, the lower volume, the top 8 bits are so unreadable as to be useless and therefore should only be read as nulls, which leads me to believe that recognising it as a 16 or 17-bit system is probably misguided.
But no, they must be using a Super Nintendo to power it then. It's probably just somebody with a faulty game, I think.
Wasn't the SNES 16-bit and the NES 8-bit?
Yes, it was.
Joke fail.
Yeah. I admit defeat.
I've lost the point now. Where was I going with this?
I have no clue.
8-bit in the sonograph, that was it. Looking at it otherwise, one thing that's particularly noticeable when you get a clear signal, which we've managed to achieve several hours worth of recording of transmissions where it's been perfectly clear with no interference, is that it does change both pitch, modulation and volume at alternate cycles. So the volume's not going up and down randomly, it's cycling up and down for a set pattern, as is the exact tone of the note from a slightly deep to a slightly high pitched note. It's also going through another cycle. They're not in sync perfectly, but it seems there are 5 or 6 distinct tones at least, and 5 or 6 distinct volume levels that are being broadcast, which is interesting. This seems to be a deliberate act rather than a mistake in any way. So it must be assumed that if some experiment is happening, then the change in volume, the change in pitch, are definitely related to the experiment that's going on.
However, what I've been thinking, I've just come up with this really recently, in fact just now. If it were indeed some sort of radar system, think of all the data that is being processed right now from it. It's unthinkable, really, considering how long it's been going on. Yeah.
I mean, you've got 28 years, is it? 1982, 28 years. Yeah, 28 years worth of whatever data that's been recorded, it is recording in the experiment. They must have a huge amount of information. And Russia's got some decent computing systems stored way back there. I wonder what they're doing. Very curious. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up for the show for today. This is our first time doing this. We thought we'd just get together on a Skype conversation, have a chat about UVB-76 as an introduction to everybody, and what we've been up to the last couple of months. So thanks very much for listening. I've really enjoyed myself. I hope you two are as well, Anthony.
I have indeed. Hope we can continue doing this and keep going on.
We are going to give Blade a shout, the guy who provides the UVB6 online repeater. See if we can get him on the next episode, give him an interview, and let us get him to tell us why he's into this in the first place. Obviously the same reason all of us are, and probably the same reason that you're listening to this right now, is just plain curiosity. You want to know why. We're also going to do a few bits on number stations in general, so we'll be talking about cryptography a bit more in depth, giving a description of how one-time pads and encoded messages and number stations work, and what they're for. And we'll look to the future, see what else we can do. We're going have a look at the CONET project, give you some examples of other number stations. We've got a lot of material planned for the next few shows at least, so if you've enjoyed, come back. Thank you very much for listening.
See ya, and on that note, WikiLeaks.